quarantine period, a few congregants and I have created a regular Thursday night poker game online, of course. The idea being we have nowhere else to go. And it's been a great time to make some new friends, strengthen old friendships, and to buy the time and give a little bit of release. But sometimes some of us have some other things to do with our family or other reasons why we can't join. So a couple of weeks ago, I had to work on the sermon that I was going to be giving at Shabbat. And so I said on the text that I was unable to play the game. And one of the people, I'll keep them anonymous, said, "Rabbi, just go look in your cabinet or choose an old sermon and repeat it and come play with us." It was nice to feel wanted and them wanting me to join them in the poker game, maybe to take some of my money. But I chose not to repeat a sermon. But he gave me an idea to look and see what I have delivered before, to see if there's any ideas that are worth repeating, worth perhaps recycling. So I found an old sermon from July of 2016. The topic back then was our newly revamped security protocols as synagogues and synagogue buildings were facing new threats that we needed to prepare for. A global pandemic forcing us out of the building for months was not one of the ones that we were thinking about. But in 2016, I wrote, "Rabbinic Judaism embraces life and commands that we breach other commandments to preserve life and even to prevent ever getting to the point of needing to preserve that life." But rabbinic fashion, of course, there is discussion about when and how this should be applied. We must preserve life, but we also want to observe the commandments and the tradition. That is the spectrum created by the perpetual daily offering and the flexibility seen in the daughters of Silchad in this week's Torah portion. This idea is very much relevant in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some things are clear-cut about preserving life, and other actions are not as clear-cut. This is where the spectrum comes in, and making very difficult decisions based on limited knowledge and relying often on our gut instincts and tolerance for risk, our anxiety level, and a genuine desire to go back to life as much as possible, and in Judaism's case, to observe the traditions. In 2016, I then told the story about the Hasidic Zvila Rebbe, Harav Gedalia Moshe Goldman, who was interred at a Siberian labor camp during World War II. According to the story, on one Shabbat, the commandant of the camp summoned both the Rebbe and another Jew, a frail old man. The commandant says, "You're free to go. All you need to do is sign these little papers and you can go." Rav Gedalia Moshe was so excited, he reached for the papers, but he stops. How could he write on Shabbat, he thinks? True is release, but is this such an action that allows him to desecrate the Shabbat? His life wasn't threatened. He was young, he thought, and he could be detained for a few more years. He would certainly survive. He responds, "No, I'm sorry, sir. I appreciate the kind gesture, but I can't desecrate the Sabbath, the holy day of rest." "Are you insane?" the commandant screams. "I'm granting you freedom. Don't waste your opportunity. I understand and appreciate your kindness, but it's my day of rest. If you're willing to, I will sign it later tonight, and you can let me free. If you do not sign it right now, you will rot in this place." The commandant responds with disgust. He then pushes the paper to the old Jew and says, "Okay, now you sign the release paper, sir." The old man looks at the rabbi. "I'm afraid I cannot sign either. The same law applies to me, the old man says. You two are both insane, Commandant says in disgust, and retrieves the papers. Wait, the rabbi says. I'll sign his paper. Let him go free. I don't understand. You just told me you can't write on the Sabbath, yet you're willing to sign his papers? You really are in an insane religion. There's a major difference, the rabbi explains. I am young and strong. I can survive here. He, on the other hand, is old and weak. He will not make it. Therefore, if he is not prepared to sign, I will sign it for him to save his life. The story ends with the commandant being so impressed by the rabbi's act of selflessness that he has allowed them both to leave without demanding their signatures. I'll speak for myself and say that I would have no problem signing for myself if, God forbid, I was in such a position. Regardless, though, the story makes us think about scenarios where we have to make choices and recognize that there's a lot of gray out there and no knowns. Would the rabbi in the story survive more years of labor even though he was young? Or would he get sick and die, perhaps in the Siberian winter? The lesson of the story in 2020, really at all times, is that our mutual care and responsibility toward each other is most important. We need the humility to recognize that we are all trying to do the right thing. Last night, I briefly discussed Temple Israel's own campus reopening. Of course, we all dream of the day when we will safely return together. Unfortunately, that day is farther off than we all want. Yet it seems that some of us slowly can venture outside literally and try to gather again, albeit in small numbers for a short period of time. There is a grand question. Shouldn't we all just wait and remain on Zoom together, which is really safe? It is a question worth considering. But then I can return to my words from 2016. We yearn to balance tradition with the health and safety needs of the moment. It is preferred to pray in person. And if it is relatively safe for some of us, following protocols to come out, we can make the case of doing so. Yet those of us going out need to do so with a lot of humility and respect for those who cannot go out, those who choose not to come out. We have to vow not to forget our brothers and sisters on Zoom. And those of us remaining on Zoom, please know that you are dearly missed. Let us all vow to continue to reach out to each other. For a while still, I think there'll be more Zoom-only times than the simulcast times with some outside and some inside. And these lessons apply to all the things and decisions we are making in our life at this time, whether it's school, going to work, or even to the supermarket. No one knows what the future brings, even the immediate future. Will things be open like they are right now in 2 weeks? We don't know. We literally have to tiptoe through life at this moment, gingerly making the next step, making sure that we land on sure footing. With this image in mind, I'd like to conclude with the words from Psalm 94. When my foot slips, your love, Adonai, support me. When I'm filled with cares, your comfort soothes my soul. Let us all be God's helper as we catch and support each other, as we take one step in front of the other, whether it is outside or inside our own homes. Shabbat Shalom.